This podcast is brought to you by the Maryland State Library Agency. The MSLA podcast features presenters from statewide youth programs, as well as learning opportunities for library staff and resources for patrons of the Maryland State Library for the Blind and Print Disabled.
Hello, I'm Communications Manager Tim Pratt, and welcome to the MSLA Guest Hour. As summer reading and learning programs kick off in public libraries across the state, I'm thrilled to be joined today by Bronwyn Mitchell-Strong, Program Director of the Natural History Society of Maryland. The Natural History Society of Maryland is partnering with Maryland libraries this summer to deliver fun and informative programming based on this year's summer reading theme, Unearth a Story. Welcome to the program, Bronwyn.
Well, thanks for having me, Tim. It's a pleasure to be here.
So for folks who aren't familiar, can you tell us a little bit about the Natural History Society of Maryland?
I'd love to. The Natural History Society of Maryland is the oldest nature education organization in the state of Maryland. We've been around since 1929 and continually active since that time. We hold in trust the largest interdisciplinary collection of natural history items in all of the state that continues to grow and evolve. And these collections are used to connect and educate people about our natural world, to tell the story about this place we call Maryland, which is 1.1 billion years of storytelling. And it is used to ask and answer new questions about our natural world and science in general. Most exciting, and I don't know if you heard the news, but we were just designated as the state's Museum of Natural Sciences. While we've been serving in this capacity, for some reason, Maryland didn't have an official Museum of Natural Sciences, and thanks to the efforts of many and the legislature session that just passed, Governor Moore signed us into law that goes into effect October 1st, and we're super excited about that.
That's fantastic. So who makes up the society? What kind of folks do you have in there? Do you have scientists, educators, like the mix? Like, can you just tell me a little bit about the folks who make up the society there?
Oh yeah, we like to call ourselves a community of the curious, and that if you are interested in learning about anything related to our natural world, this is the place to come. We also like to say, come with a question and leave with a quest, because we put you shoulder to shoulder with passionate experts and scientists in a variety of different fields and disciplines. Everybody is welcome. This is an inclusive facility. Our entry is free we don't want to put any barriers between anyone and this education and this information and these resources, because this is a community asset. And so everybody is welcome. We're very accessible. We have people coming in and asking questions all the time. I had an 86-year-old man bring a big rock that he had in his house for 50 years, wanting to know what it is. So again, you come with a question and you leave with a quest. So we have a membership structure. Anybody can join as a member. The memberships we call our community curators, because those the funds, help to take care of these collections that are used by the community. And but you don't have to be a member to participate in all of our programs. We have 4 clubs that let you take a deeper dive in different sections. So we have a Lepidoptera club, and that's the order of insects that include moths and butterflies. So if you're really into that, you can join the club. We have a fossil club. So if you love digging around in old stuff, join the fossil club. And we have a herpetology club, and that's for the folks who love reptiles and amphibians. And each of those clubs have meetings, and they go on field trips, and they just nerd out with each other on those topics. But we have classes, field trips, canoe trips, everything that any way that we can connect people to nature and nature education, that's what we try to do here.
That's fantastic. Well, how did you end up there? Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Like, what's your professional background and how did you end up at the society?
Well, I'm not an original Marylander. I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, but I graduated from Louisiana State University, go Tigers, in the very, very early 90s. And uh, and with a degree in environmental science. So I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and it was the height of the environmental movement, and I was a sucker for, I guess it just struck me. I just wanted to help make the environment a cleaner place. So that's why I went into environmental science. My family was always good campers, and we loved to be outside and go camping. Um, and after college, I was joined the Peace Corps and was a Peace Corps volunteer down in Botswana, which is a country right above South Africa, between Namibia and Zimbabwe. And I was an environmental education volunteer there, working with Conservation International, a nonprofit, and we were working on developing a game park and an education nature center and interpretive trails through there. And I was working with wildlife clubs with youth. And it seems like ever since then, I've been doing some form of that. Whether it's been just finding ways to get people into and learn about nature. But there's a selfish side of that, Tim, because I love learning. And so being part of this job, I have to keep learning new things, and then I get to teach it to other people. So it's a job that always gives back. So after Peace Corps, I worked for the Environmental Protection Agency for a while. I didn't really dig working for the government and regulations and stuff. I wanted to be more in the field and working with people in education. So was also in the South Pacific for a while, working in American Samoa, helping to protect their wetlands and working with the communities there. And then found myself on the eastern shore of Maryland, working again as the education director at Environmental Concern, a small nonprofit that deals with wetlands restoration here in this area. That was what brought me to Maryland. I've also been involved with the Maryland Association for Environmental and Outdoor Educators. Took a little bit of a break and worked at the Maryland Ag Center in Baltimore, learning more about ag education before I found this place. And like so many others, they're like, I wish I would have known about this place. I didn't even know it existed. And I didn't even know it existed when I walked in for my interview. But when I walked in for my interview and learned about the history and the people, and I knew that this was a place that I wanted to be more involved with. And that's how I got here.
That's quite a journey. If you ever write a memoir or autobiography, I'm surely going to read it. So, so like in your position and the society in general, like what are some of your goals or priorities?
Well, the goals and priorities of the organization as a whole are really just to continue where, it's great to be this legacy organization, because we're continuing on and following in the footsteps or carrying the baton, whatever analogy that you want to use, is for the people who have come before us, and we want to make them proud. And I think they are, especially with the new designation in the 1929. That's what they wrote. They were going to be the Natural History or Natural Sciences Museum for the state of Maryland. So it's really about creating access to the natural world, education, continued research, and just being a hub for curiosity and discovery.
Very nice. So looking at the history of Maryland, can you talk a little bit about that? Just, I mean, the age, things that have found here, because you see in stories and the news these big dinosaur bones, these big massive megalodons and big teeth. And can you just talk a little bit about what scientists have found here?
Well, it's funny you ask that, Tim, because we're working real hard on our next exhibit, which is scheduled to open August 1st. And the title of the exhibit is called The Making of Maryland, 1 billion Years and Counting. And we go back about 1.1 billion years to where it all began. That's the story of this place we call Maryland. And it started in the southern hemisphere near the South Pole, if you can imagine that. So the oldest rocks in Maryland that are still here, we can go out and touch them. You'll be able to come to the museum and see and touch them here. Were formed when a supercontinent was being formed. And when I say supercontinent, most people think Pangea. That's the one that comes to mind. But there have been supercontinents before Pangea. Pangea is actually the last supercontinent Earth has had. You see, continents are kind of like people. They come together and then they kind of get angry or I don't know, annoyed with each other and they break apart and then they get lonely and they come back together and they say, so it's this ongoing process of supercontinents coming together and then breaking apart. The supercontinent before Pangea was Rodinia. And when that came together, it created a mountain range called the Grenville Mountains. And those rocks are the baby start of Maryland, and it was down at the South Pole. And this exhibit that we're opening up traces and chases Maryland as it goes globe tripping to its current location here in the Northern Hemisphere, and all of the things that happen along the way to make Maryland today. And it's really an interesting and exciting story that we're telling. You mentioned about discovering different things, and each rock tells a story. So they're almost like a library. They're almost like a library in and of itself. Every rock you pick up tells the story of the history of the place where it is and how it was formed and what was happening. And some of those rocks might be fossils, and that'll tell you about the life and the living things that were here beforehand. And Maryland being a small state, and I know that we are often called Maryland, America in miniature, but it has a little bit of everything, and where it's positioned, it also doesn't have we might not have the fossil record is very interesting here. We have it's amazing how many different types of fossils from different time periods throughout the history of the earth are found here in Maryland. And we will be telling that story as well it's not just rocks, but we're telling it with the fossils and life, how it evolved and changed, and who was here in Maryland all those millions and years ago.
Very nice. So, with the theme of summer reading being unearth a story, I mean, it's kind of fitting that you guys are involved. But how did you, or what inspired the society to get involved with summer reading and learning programs this year?
It's not our first time being involved. I think there was a couple of years ago, it was Under the Sea, or there was a sea thing, and we were very involved with that summer reading program. So we were reached out to. We love reading. We love books. We have a big book sale here, and we just find that is another avenue, a partnership with the libraries of Maryland to connect people with nature. And there's the museum itself, and if you can come, and we hope that you do come and visit the museum, there are the collections, and sometimes the collections are off limit, but we are in the process of digitizing those so that make them accessible to folks. And we have the living museum, which is the natural world, which we like to get people out in touch with. But we also have our mobile museums, and that's when we go into the community, like going to libraries and schools and other organizations, and bringing bits and pieces of the museum out to other people, because we represent the entire state of Maryland, even though we are located here in Baltimore.
Very interesting. So can you talk a little bit about what specifically you're going to be doing this summer? Are you going to be going out to libraries? Are you going to be hosting things at your museum? Like what are you guys going to be doing specifically to support summer reading and learning programs this year?
Yeah, this year we've been getting calls from libraries across the state asking us to come and bring some fossils to the library. So we have a list of places that we're going. We have volunteers. The organization was built, founded, run, still the heart and soul is volunteers. They'll be taking out fossil kits to different libraries and doing presentations. Some libraries will get a couple of fossils to keep on display at their facility so that folks can have like a mini museum right there inside the library to correspond with this. And even even a library in Worcester County, which is really far away from us, is getting a presentation. We're going to ship them some fossils, so they'll have those in hand, and then our experts will be zooming over the presentation. So they'll have them in hand, and we'll be talking about what they're touching and feeling and experiencing there. So we're trying to be as comprehensive as possible with with all of our lovely, passionate volunteers.
Yeah. So if libraries are still interested in having somebody come out or you guys do a presentation, are you able to do that, or are you guys all booked up?
I encourage other libraries to reach out. We can see what we can do. Again, it depends on availability, but we're not going anywhere after the summer ends. Even though the summer program might be ending, we're still around, so we can still come out and do other programs throughout the year at the libraries, and it doesn't have to just be fossils. It could be something else as well.
Gotcha.
For example, we have a partnership with the Enoch Pratt Library and their observational drawing program. This is our second year with them, and they're different times we bring out different parts of our collection. There will be drawing shark's teeth. So we're bringing all kinds of different shark's teeth out there, but we've done shells, we've done turtle shells, all kinds of fun things for them to draw with.
Very nice. Do you have any partnerships with any other libraries or any other organizations that you guys are working with?
Yeah, well, we do have a partnership with Digital Maryland. I don't know if it's somewhere around that. They have helped us immensely with digitizing some of our archival materials and making those available online. I definitely go check it out. It's really, really cool. These old field notebooks from naturalists here in Maryland, what they were seeing. And there's a way for the community, to actually go in there, because it's using that foreign language called cursive, and so they need to be translated into text. So if you can read cursive, we need you to go in and help us translate some of these old documents. And it's a fun way, a glimpse back into Maryland's naturalist past. With other libraries, we've also done a a field trip with the
The Maryland Library for the Blind and Print Disabled.
yes, for the participant. They came for a tactile a tour of the museum when we had our Ice Age in Maryland with the woolly mammoth exhibit up. So they were able to come and do that. And so we have partnerships with all kinds of organizations, institutes of higher education. Our fossils, the fossils that we just had, we delivered 11,000 fossils to Baltimore County Public Schools to be used in their third grade curriculum. So every third grader in Baltimore County will be using our fossils. So if there's any way for us to get fossils in people's hands and nature in people's hearts, that's what we're doing.
I'm very interested in the fossils that you guys have. What are some of the bigger fossils you have? Anything notable?
Notable. Well, all of them are notable because do you know what it takes to become a fossil, Tim?
Long time.
Well, it takes at least 10,000 years, but of everything that's been living on Earth, only 0.0001% of those things become fossils because something has to be living and then it has to die. So that's the easy part. That's the easy part, dying. But then after it dies, immediately it has to be buried or entombed in some way, and then it can't be touched or dug up or moved for over 10,000 years. Then the real hard part is one of us has to go out there and find it, and then it has to be found. So every single fossil is unique. There's none other like it, and they're very special. Even though if you can go down to Southern Maryland and find thousands of different sharks' teeth, think about all of the other sharks' teeth that didn't get fossilized because you're only seeing a small percentage of things that were fossilized plus small percentage of those things that were found that have been fossilized.
You seem to have a genuine joy in this. Is that like what do you love most about this job? I guess that's the question. I mean, because you seem to really enjoy what you're talking about this and learning and sharing your information.
Well, it's the stories. This is it's so I'm a storyteller. I like reading and telling stories. And the best storyteller, I think, is nature because and it's the never ending story. I think that would be a good title for a movie. Um, but it's a never ending story. I love learning, and if I hear a good story, I want to tell it. So that's the story of Maryland. It was the story of the ice age last, and to do all of that I have to learn, and learning just brings me joy.
Very nice. So separate from the summer reading and learning programs, are there any other programs or initiatives that you want to talk about? I know you already mentioned the upcoming thing. Anything else?
Oh yeah, we we put on over 300 different programs a year. At sometimes every day there could be two or three different things going on because as I mentioned, the museum is the building, and that's one aspect of the organization, but the outside is our living museum, and we want to get people out there as much as possible. So if you look at our calendar of events, we have things that are online. We have Must Learn Thursdays every night. We just learned yesterday about the tsunami that happened 35 million years ago when the asteroid hit down at what would become the base of the Chesapeake Bay. And every Thursday, there's a different topic to learn about. And we have programs ongoing here. For instance, Sunday is World Turtle Day. That's the 24th of May. I think this is probably going to be after that, but we have Nature Connections that are free family fun programs, and we have classes, field trips. Our canoes are back in the water for our canoe season. So even if you are a beginner, a novice at canoeing, we have beginner trips, we have lessons that you can take. So, and I'm very excited about August. So that's when we're going to be reopening with our public open hours. And that's just when you can stop in anytime and come in and enjoy your Museum of Natural Sciences.
Very good. So this is a library podcast, so I would love to hear your library story. Did you go to the library much growing up? Did you have a favorite one, a favorite book, favorite librarian? Like what's your library story?
My library story. That's interesting. Well, as I mentioned, I grew up in New Orleans, so my library was not here. It was the Robert E. Smith Library in Lakeview. And we went there as kids to pick out books, which was always fun. And then I was there. This was before the internet. And so I was there for doing my school projects and looking at card catalogs and filling my baskets up with taking notes of all the encyclopedias that were there. So it brings back definite fond memories of learning. So that was my library. That was my library. It's still there. It was destroyed during Katrina,
Oh man,
unfortunately. They set up a mobile library after that when they could, and they rebuilt the building, so it's still up there and doing its thing.
very good. So do you do much reading these days, or do you have time to do much reading these days? And if so, what kind of stuff do you like to read?
Yeah, I'm reading all the time. I'm especially when I'm learning new things to share with folks. It's been a lot of geology and paleontology. But in terms of books, I am a member of a book club, and I rely on them to we take turns picking out books. So you never know what you're going to get. The last book that we read was The Motherless Land by Nikki May, which was really interesting. And before that was Project Hail Mary. And I loved that book because it really was about science. It brought in science and showed how the world could work together and using science to solve some problems. So that was very exciting. We're going to have our own summer book club coming up. Last year, we did at the Natural History Society of Maryland, we did My Side of the Mountain, which was written by Jean Craighead George, and it was a Newbery Award winner, and it was an intergenerational book club. So it was anybody, and kids, it's adults, it's read it with your grandkids, and we had supporting programs, including lots of interactions with the author's daughter, Twig George, who's on our board of directors. So we'll be launching that as well.
Very good. So wrapping up here, just one last plug. If you could, try to convince people to come out to some of your events this summer, like why should they come out? What would you say to them to convince them to come see what you guys are doing at our libraries this summer?
Well, you get to hold dinosaur poop in your hand. If that, I mean, that's right there. Where else can you hold a piece of dinosaur poop in your hand? You can hold a megalodon shark tooth in your hand and have that. That's our new state shark that was just designated. That is one of our original Marylanders. But really, it's not only those iconic kind of fossils. It could be something that is you'll see and learn something that you don't know. And I don't know what other better thing to do with one's life is to just keep going out there and exploring. Hopefully, it will spark your interest to learn more, and then you'll know where to come to learn more, and maybe become part of our community of the curious and get out there and go on one of our fossil hunting trips throughout Maryland that we do all the time, or other things. So there are many discoveries to be made, and one of the things that we like to encourage people is there are only a few scientists, if you think about the population of the world, but there's a lot of us, and we have eyes and hands, and as long as we're out there exploring and finding things, most of the discoveries are happening by us, ordinary people, and there's so many things to discover and find, and the world is a wonderful treasure chest, and learning how to be a naturalist and go out and find these things is like a treasure hunt, and it's all out there waiting for you.
Well, thank you so much, Bronwyn. This has been a great conversation, and I highly encourage everyone to check out their website and check out some of their programs at your local library this summer. So thank you again.
Thanks, Tim.
This has been a presentation of the Maryland State Library Agency. For links to additional resources provided by today's presenter, please visit the show notes. For more information on MSLA or the Maryland State Library for the Blind and Print Disabled, visit marylandlibraries.org.